Hello, everybody. Today is February 9th, and today we're doing government, robot, and design. It's a weird section. There's 3 things in here today, so let's get started.
Let's do it. I'm so hyped for it.
Woohoo! We're such a high-energy channel. You guys know how we are.
People gave us such a hard time about this last week. You got to get on the Patreon train if you want the news the day of.
Listen, we splitting the news into 3 different episodes is something we do to mitigate YouTube burying us, and it kind of works.
I would just like to take a moment to say that our news headlines are incredibly clever. I have nothing to do with them, but they are insanely clever. And the algorithm does not care.
We spend dozens of minutes crafting those titles every week.
I guess probably we should be a little bit worried if it can
if it can put it together.
All of those.
Yeah.
Well, we'll start talking about the stock market, even though this is the government section. And this headline is not really government related, but this kind of leads into the fallout. What happens now? Clearly, there was a big event. It's kind of running out of steam. And what horrible, horrible restrictions are our leaders going to pull out of this crisis?
Reddit rally. Stocks bounce on day after sell-off and then dip after hours. Isn't that called the dead cat bounce? GameStop and other social media darlings rebounded in calmer trading, and then they didn't.
This was February 3rd, so we all know what's happened since then. They've continued to fall. I don't think they're back down to where they started, but certainly
they were bubbling a little bit earlier today.
If you got in near the top, you're hurting right now. But as they talk about further in this article,
you're not hurting if you bought it like $5.
A lot of people are, and by people I mean politicians, which aren't people at all, but they're crying out that something has to be done about this. Well, the plebs must never be allowed to control the market like the rich people are. And so they have begun to assign their summons.
Robinhood CEO expected to testify before Maxine Waters panel on GameStop. I have a feeling his lawyers have already told him, stop posting on Reddit because they're going to try to say that you're offering financial advice. I mean, that's like one step removed from offering financial advice on 4chan. I mean, if you do that, you know what you're getting yourself into. Surely.
I would take financial advice from 4chan way ahead of Reddit. Way ahead. So yeah, they are. Now he has since come out and said and explained the whole shutdown thing. It wasn't actually that they were trying to. Well, according to him, they weren't trying to help Citadel. They were simply doing what the clearinghouse insisted that they do, which was put up capital to cover the madness in case everything reversed immediately. And so that seems reasonable based on the fact that it takes a while for things to flush out. But can he explain that in small enough words that Maxine Waters can understand it?
Anytime there's like a CEO testify before Congress, I think back to the Facebook hearing, which I studied intently, and that was horrifying.
So we'll see. I'm sure that we'll get some new regulations. Won't that be fun? And Amazon is now settling an old beef that it had with the FTC. Definitely seems like they did a terrible thing here, and it definitely seems like this is something that couldn't have happened by accident.
Amazon to pay $61.7 million to settle FTC charges. It withheld some customer tips from Amazon Flex drivers. The Flex drivers are going to get their money. In addition to that, it's $61.7 million to settle this. But it took a very long time, and I have a feeling that a lot of these drivers probably aren't driving anymore.
I think the 61.7 represents everything they took.
Oh, it's not actually on top of that? Because I thought that, and I read that, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. And then there was another part where it made it sound like that they were fined on top of having to pay it. Because usually what happens is they're fined, but they also don't have to pay it, and that's not a very good punishment.
This is almost exactly what Uber did, which should probably be considered. I don't know how long this case has been going on, but this is the old game where they guarantee your salary, and then whatever tips you get are on top of that salary. But what they actually do is pay you the tips first and then top up if they need more for your salary. So in essence,
it's
steal
hideously
your tips.
evil.
Yeah, I like they use the word withheld here when it should just be steal.
Yeah.
We stole those monies.
Uber didn't get away with it. And so if Amazon did this since then, I don't think 61.7 is a fair number.
No.
You would think there would be a precedent that says, no, you pay that money back.
But now I've never used one of the services where you're allowed to tip the Amazon driver. It's only for fresh and something else.
Oh, they're not even doing the Whole Foods thing anymore. It's not separate.
I think some of these programs are gone at this point. Yeah. And the Amazon Ring is ubiquitous, sadly, because people don't understand what they're mounting on their front door.
Yeah, this story had a couple of nuggets in it that I didn't know before.
And if you're thinking about relocating to a state that's maybe going to be the last one to fall to communism, here's some candidates.
Montana and Wyoming. Amazon's Ring now reportedly partners with more than 2,000 U.S. police departments and fire departments. Only 2 states, Montana and Wyoming, have no departments on the Ring program. We're going to have another story later about how many law enforcement requests Amazon gets a year. And, ooh, that number has gone up. Oh, it's right now. Amazon says the government demands for user data spiked by 800% in 2020. I like talking about both of these stories at the same time because it's the same story told a different way.
But here's the big kicker in this story, or not the kicker, but the surprise. Guess which country is number 1? You're already wrong. It's Germany. Germany has like 40% of them. The U.S. is only, 11%?
Yeah, it wasn't a lot.
So what's going on in Germany?
Do we even want to know? Is it that bad?
Xiaomi, is that?
Xiaomi,
is that how we pronounce that? So Xiaomi is one of those Chinese companies that came under the crosshairs of the Trump administration. And while they did not shut them out like they did Huawei, they did ban U.S. investors from putting money into Xiaomi. And that's going to cause a big problem because a lot of our big companies are into that.
Xiaomi sues U.S. seeking to reverse investment ban. They came out and said, we have nothing to do with the Chinese Communist Party. They have nothing to do with our business, blah, blah, blah. One of the quotes from one of the U.S. administration officials is like, if you're doing business in China, the Chinese Communist Party definitely has an interest in your company. It may just be overt.
But they're, more specifically, Xiaomi, for whatever reason, is more closely tied to the People's Liberation Army.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Anyway. They believe it, and you might be thinking, well, Trump's gone now, so this doesn't matter anymore. But as many of the things we've talked about recently...
Biden's commerce liaison, lift something.
Sees no reason to lift.
I'll lift the Huawei blacklist. Well, this was a little bit of a nothing burger, but they did clarify because she was like, initially, she didn't, like, there was a bit of news. And it was like, we're going to revisit the blacklist. And it was like, oh, Huawei. But they didn't actually name Huawei specifically. And then when they did revisit the blacklist, Huawei stayed on the blacklist.
Xiaomi.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
The Joint Strike Fighter F-35 has been a bit of a boondoggle. How many billions have we spent developing it at this point?
A lot of a boondoggle.
It's not a good dog fighter. I don't know if it was ever designed to be, but if it comes to that, that'd be a nice thing to have, right? And now that pilots have been in it, we have at least one pilot who has spoken on conditions of anonymity because he'd probably be court-martialed. And he's going to tell us something that I think everybody who drives a Tesla already knows, which is there are some ideas that are really stupid for situations where your attention needs to be elsewhere. And sometimes your attention really needs to be elsewhere.
The problems of touchscreens in the Joint Strike Fighter. So under condition of anonymity, this pilot was like, oh my gosh, it looks cool, but then you actually have to use this and you got to use those touchscreen controls. It does not work well at all.
20% failure rate, he mentioned. But just, like trying
pressing
to
the wrong part of the screen.
Fumble at some. I imagine they wear gloves in cockpits, right?
Yeah, pressure suit. You got to have your pressure suit.
I think you're okay as long as you have the mask.
Mm-hmm.
But this is really cool, though. Like this screenshot, that green overlay there, that's inside the helmet. Heads up. That's really cool. So, yeah. They're down to, I think he mentioned there were 11 physical switches. 10 actual physical switches in the cockpit.
One of those is emergency eject, I hope.
Yeah. Does this open up more opportunities for failure though? I mean, I guess a physical switch can break, but if your screen goes out, you're missing a lot of key information that maybe you wouldn't have been missing if you had a physical element. Yeah.
Well, on Star Trek, I don't know if that's any indication of reality, but on Star Trek, like if one of the bridge consoles blow up, they can just reroute the bridge console to another touchscreen.
Right. The guy in the back in the fuselage, he'll deal with that while you're taking fire. And we mentioned Teslas because it seems like the wave of the future are these electric cars with these stupid new interfaces. And are they ever going to catch on? Well, they might get quite a shot in the arm in the next 4 years.
Biden wants an all-electric federal fleet. The question is, how will he achieve it? There's 47,000 vans, 847 ambulances, and 3 limos. 78,000 heavy-duty trucks.
Do you think all 3 limos are for the president?
Probably, yeah. I was hoping that they would talk a little bit about the Postal Service, because the pictures of the Postal Service
they
vans.
did. Yeah, they mentioned the Postal Service trucks. They're all going electric.
Oh, okay. They need to redesign them. So I missed that part of it. Are they, because like the trucks they have now are designed basically specifically for the post office, and that's why they're still using them, and they're like 40 years old, and they're just doing their best to keep them running. The actual delivery vehicle. Oh, you're talking about the vans. No, I mean like the, yeah. They talked about the vans, but I'm talking about like the ones where like they drive on the wrong side of the road. Those should be electric for sure. The long haul,
No, I'm pretty sure they're talking about the residential delivery.
Oh, okay.
No, they don't know yet because who do you buy these from?
They don't make them.
Yeah, exactly. So
you're going to need Elon Musk to come in and be like, all right, we're going to do the left-handed drive, whatever.
But we can't. Can you? Well, they can do it. Sadly, the world we live in is they can do it. But what are you going to spend? 60 grand on a mail carrier?
Hey, if we can get 40 years out of it like we have the current fleet, that's not that bad.
The touchscreen's going to fail in 5.
But they can sell off the old fleet as well.
Yeah, I was thinking,
to think about.
A purely utilitarian vehicle, but once Elon Musk gets his hand on it, that's not what it's going to be.
Krista, how would you like to van life a USPS van?
I bet those would probably be pretty nice. Like, they're probably pretty spacious.
I think they have
Sell it off
cages
to a whole new
right?
generation of millennials and Gen Z.
I think they have like a sorting system in there.
They can be ripped out.
Tear it out.
Yeah.
Now, we did a story about this last week, and after reading this story, I have a theory. Let me see if you think this might be true. I think the mayor of Miami owns Bitcoin.
Miami's mayor leads the change to bring Bitcoin to America's largest cities. This is kind of a follow-up to last week's story where they were putting information on their website about Bitcoin. Now they're saying, hey, maybe we'll let people pay their fines in Bitcoin and receive salaries.
Yeah, the employees.
So
they have here's a bullet list of his big plans down here. City employees, pay taxes, and the Treasury might invest capital into Bitcoin. That seems reckless.
See, I can, because Bitcoin is inherently deflational. So as long as people are using it, it's okay. But I don't think Bitcoin is particularly compelling to use for things like, your salary.
That makes me nervous. Like, if I was an employee of the city and it was like, we're going to pay you in Bitcoin, I'd be like, nah.
But you also introduce fees to get your money.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a big problem with that, yeah. Like I said, I have a feeling he's got a lot of Bitcoin, and he's like, how can I move this market?
Or people that have him in their pocket have a lot of Bitcoin, and then there you go.
Now, you might call that market manipulation, but other people might call it innovation. And we are lacking innovation here in the U.S., sadly.
South Korea leads world in innovation as the U.S. exits the top 10. I was trying to suss out, the different ways that they define innovation. They actually do talk about that a little bit in the article.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised that the U.S. is doing that badly given some of the criteria and parameters. Yeah, the innovation index, high tech, some of the other stuff. I'm surprised it's doing that badly, but okay. I mean, I don't disagree. I don't have anything to refute it, but I mean, good Lord.
Hey, listen, we're still ahead of France. We're still beating France, as we always have throughout history.
Yeah, but I mean, is that really an accomplishment? When France, really? France?
But yeah, Korea and a lot of European countries moved up the list.
That's like beating North Korea in basketball.
Listen, I'm all for shitting on the French, but we do owe at least part of our independence to them.
Rodman's team got trounced by the North Koreans when he went over there.
Did he?
Oh, God, yeah. They were shooting from outside, and you could tell every time their fingertips left that ball, they knew their family's lives depended on whether or not it sunk or not.
Between that and the methamphetamine, I mean, it makes sense.
They were literally playing for their dinner.
Oh, the show is once again turned to dark.
And it's going to get darker because North Korea is a little bit past this. But when you think about, modern governments, there are some things that you just shouldn't be able to do. And yet, in many parts of the world, they do it at the drop of the hat, or in this case, a military coup.
Internet blackouts skyrocket amid global political unrest. Oh, and they've got a map, countries with temporary internet or social media blockages since 2019. That's a very large picture of Russia and India and Uganda and a lot of other countries.
Myanmar, I don't ever how to pronounce it.
We've got 3 stories about Myanmar.
Myanmar is the star of the show this week.
Resistance coup grows despite Myanmar's block of Facebook. That was also where they there was a lady that was doing a yoga video for her YouTube channel or something, and like the military junta from like the takeover thing was happening in the background, and she had no idea.
Yeah, she's just dancing away, and then you see all these military trucks roll by, and it's like, oh, what's happening there?
Yeah, somebody shopped Bernie into that. It was pretty funny.
So yeah, they took over, and it's a pure military coup. And part of the way that they deal with the people not liking that, just turn off the internet.
We should point and laugh at that, but that was kind of close to what happened here, so we should probably not point and laugh at that.
Oh yeah, they would do it. I don't know if it would probably be. It would take more effort here because the ISPs would have to get on board. I think it'd take them like 3 days.
Yeah.
And you might be wondering if you are a Myanmarian. What is the plural?
Sound right.
If you're one of those people who live there,
a resident.
If you're Burmese, you might be asking yourself, well, how long can this last? I mean, we should probably have this back by March, right? Hang on.
India is restoring 4G internet in Jammu and Kashmir after 18 months. We covered this story when it first broke. I had no idea that was still going on. And it turns out it's a little bit of a lie. They had whitelisted 301 websites. Including Amazon and Netflix.
Yeah, I remember that list, and it really was just like the corporate sponsors of Kashmir.
Yeah. So I guess they knew that people would really revolt if they couldn't get their Netflix.
Well, they suffered for well over a year.
Yeah.
And I guess they were locked down, too.
Yeah.
Oh, imagine that.
I mean, that's going to happen. That's going to happen to a quote-unquote developed country. You watch and see.
That's a harsh sentence. Down in Australia, they are still having their fight with Google, and Google may be feeling a little bit of the burn. They're making a tiny concession. I don't think it'll be enough.
Google launches news showcase in Australia against media bargaining code backdrop. So this is just a preview of what their little news thing is going to be in Australia. This is a taste. I think they did this hoping that they could get everybody to come to the table and cooperate with them, but I just don't think they're going to pull out of Australia if they don't get their way.
They did. They partnered with all these various Australian news places that I've never heard of. Crikey is one of them. What a great publication.
Crikey.
It's just a stereotype.
But we'll see. We'll see if are those people betraying the cause?
How did Crikey escape? The great rebranding of 2020. I mean, we lost Uncle Ben's, we lost Aunt Jemima. How did they survive?
Is crikey some sort of reference to
Australia and their weird, crikey, things are going to be weird and someone's going to die from the spider.
But it's the white Australians that say that, so you can destroy anything you want to.
Oh,
yeah. Doesn't matter.
But they didn't destroy crikey. That's the point.
Well, I mean, if that were something that the indigenous people said. It would be hate speech. But it's something white people say, so whatever, no one cares. And as Google might be forced out the door in Australia, there is a little starving runt of a dog salivating and begging. It's just giving those little puppy dog eyes. So we're ready. I'm ready to be your dog. I'm ready to give you everything you've ever wanted.
As Google eyes its Australia exit, Microsoft talks Bing with the Prime Minister. This is in Sydney. So Microsoft is saying, look, Bing can fill in the gap for you here.
And Flash is dead, and we had some hilarious stories about that last week. The best one being the Chinese train. that was running on Flash, or at least some part of the reservation system or something was running on Flash.
People were stuck in the train station.
They had to actually pirate Flash and run a terribly, terribly dangerous version to get the trains running again. But now we find out that they are not alone. Another government agency with the worst name for 2020 and 2021.
Here comes the algorithm. Choo-choo.
They have, just say the letters.
Yeah.
They, I think this is worse.
Yeah.
They have done something worse than the Chinese train.
South African government releases its own browser just to re-enable Flash support. It's based on Chromium. This comes to you from the SARS. Welcome to the SARS e-filing official landing page. Oh, they did all their stuff in Flash. They missed the memo.
That's the South African Revenue Service. That's their version of the IRS.
That's the Boiler Snake.
Boiler Snake has run afoul of them in the past. He has a diamond mining operation, and I think there was some bribes that had to be given.
Yeah, the Boiler Snakes reminded me that I've just filed some paperwork, so I might not be in the next episode of the news.
So, is that a joke or?
No, I'm gonna have to go after the next episode of the news, but I'll be back.
Okay.
Or after this episode, I mean.
China. So, an interesting thing is happening as we see time after time. All this this data from the contact tracing just gets leaked. We knew it was going to happen. Any sane person knew it was going to happen. But they were like, no, we need to do it. And now we're finding other ways in which we had, when the pandemic started, China was like, oh, let us help you with that. Well, we know what we're doing here. Let's just help you with that. And some people are like, that makes sense. But
China's push to control Americans' healthcare future. U.S. officials say Chinese government is trying to collect Americans' DNA, and they believe the recent offer from a Chinese company for assistance with testing for the thing is suspicious. So, yeah, if you've got all of our genetic information, you know exactly what sort of genetic defects we're going to have. Who knows what sort of crazy stuff you can do with that. But also, it seems like you could do a lot of other just really scary stuff.
What if you had a lab that could synthesize viruses?
Oh, man. Could just target the one thing. I mean, you know, I was surprised. I was reading about the Russian guy and the Novichok. It's surprisingly easy to make that stuff. And the components for it are basically off the shelf.
That's true of a lot of poisons. Moving on to the robot section, we have a very helpful little robot here. So when you are looking at the night sky with certain kinds of telescopes, you use fiber optics. But you have to actually print a plate and poke a little hole everywhere there's going to be a light source from the night sky. And then you got to thread that little fiber optic in there by hand. So these were like literally PhDs sitting there all day long, putting little fiber optics into a plate. Thankfully, not anymore.
Astronomy surveys aim to up the pace with an army of tiny robots poking holes in things and threading things.
So yeah, the robot, I don't even think it's going to be threading anymore. I think the plate itself can somehow...
It seemed like it was like a combination like printing process where it would like make the little divots and then the thing would come behind it and just shove the fiber through.
But they can change it afterwards. You don't have to print another one. And it used to take days or weeks. Now it takes 2 minutes.
Nice.
So that's exciting. Maybe we'll find those aliens finally. Maybe they have a vaccine that works.
Or they just give us something else like the Andromeda strain.
It's like, we need to make room for our vacation cabin. You guys have to go.
Remember Clearview AI? They did some terrible, terrible things. But technically, they were legal things.
Except in Canada.
Which says a lot that all that was legal. But yes, as you say, they did not check across the border with those regulations.
Oops.
Which you always have to do.
U.S. technology company Clearview AI violated the Canadian privacy law, according to this report. This is pretty cool that Canada has this kind of a law. And the Canadian law, we don't have laws like this in America as far as I can tell. But the Canadian law is basically like, even though all of this stuff is public, you're amalgamating a whole bunch of stuff that's public that people don't expect to in a way that frustrates people's individual privacy. So you're not allowed to do that. Whereas here, it's like, oh, that was in a public database. It's fair game, which is like probably not a modern, like we probably shouldn't be doing that.
They pointed out that these people, through no fault of their own and through no opting in and through doing no crime, began to be compared in criminal databases.
Yeah.
And that's not okay in Canadian law, which kind of makes sense. Also, there were some children in there.
A lot of children.
Shouldn't be doing that.
AI is not very good at telling children from people that just haven't aged.
To be fair, I'm not either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's like there's somebody that's alone in a shopping aisle that looks like they might be younger. It's like, I'll just go to another aisle for now.
is that because you don't want to get wrapped up in any controversy, or you're afraid they'll attack you?
Either way.
Or they'll turn and be like, "Can you help me find my mom?" And it's like, "Oh no."
Yeah, and it's like, is this a trap? I don't understand.
Well, I do know one thing about young people. I'm pretty out of touch, but I know one thing about young people. They need jobs.
Do they though?
And
they seem perfectly content. Dude.
And one of the places, one of the hirers of last resort is Amazon at this point, right? You can go toil your life away in a cold and or hot warehouse and just peeing your pants all day. But it's a job. It's there for a little bit longer.
Fetch Robotics and Honeywell deliver new integrated pallet conveyance solution for distribution centers. This is what's going to send millennials over the edge and collapse all of our society.
Oh, it's noisy.
The sound. Oh no.
Oh, I hate these volume
Oh
bars.
no.
Oh, they're so annoying.
Just stop it. It's fine. But anyway, this thing is just bananas. You should check out the video.
So I can't. This is so.
Just skip to the middle and like they'll get the
There
idea.
we go. There we go. I got it. So you got this guy, and he drives up, and he's got this little station here, and whatever's sitting on top of the station. All right, come on. There you go. He'll slide in there, jack it up, take it wherever you want it, put it on that same station. But you do have to have those stations everywhere.
Yeah, but see also the other robots that they have where, you know, they've got the robots that pick and place, and then they got the other robots that, you know, can sort boxes automatically. So all this thing has to do is haphazardly dump that on a conveyor belt, and it'll just sort the boxes.
So bad news for you Amazon workers. You know, I mean, we'll talk about this in the next section, but you remember that unionization talk?
Oh yeah, that went through. Actually yesterday the mail for that went out. Amazon had a last-ditch effort for unionization, and they failed.
You know who will never join a union? That robot.
Or this one.
You don't know that.
They don't
This
even
one's
want to be paid.
This one's not going to join a reunion.
This one, maybe the most famous robot right now. Do you think?
Yes.
Non-fictional robot.
It is amazing that Boston Dynamics is not profitable as famous as this robot is.
Well, it's just not useful, but it is getting more useful, and that's what this is all about.
Boston Dynamics Robot Dog gets an arm attachment and self-charging capabilities. So this thing, I have it on good authority that Boston Dynamics is talking with a major park service, and they are looking at replacing their trash pickup employees, about 60-70% of their trash pickup employees, with these. Yeah, I mean, just it can turn switches and blah blah blah, but they're just like, we just want these to pick up trash. That's all we want.
He's oddly adorable. They also have a self-charging stand for him right here. You can see they've got a little animation. There he goes. He's got 2 charging points. He just sort of mounts it there.
Yeah, so imagine a bunch of those working 20 hours a day.
And they have this new...
They don't need a break. They go 24.
Well,
no, it's charging.
Shh.
They got this new software web app where you can actually like assign movements and paths and stuff like that with your robot. It looks actually pretty impressive. If you have a spot in your warehouse, please email us and tell us about it.
What if it gets real grabby? What if it's actually a sexual assault bot?
You could, so that the arm has a 4K camera in the middle of it, and you can drive the robot looking through the arm. So you could totally grab some ass with that.
Yeah.
Easily. Just with an
And
Android
before
tablet.
that's a story we have to report on.
It'd be funny if you got your spot robot and put like a little Trump wig on it, and then every woman you saw, well, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, no, let's not go there.
And finally, we end with a design story, and this has to do with Amazon. Amazon planned this amazing new headquarters, and you could tell they really wanted to make a splash. But a lot of people are comparing it to something else that makes a splash.
Yeah. Krista.
Amazon's next headquarters is a glass poop emoji covered in trees.
That thing
It's
is
going to be in Arlington, Virginia.
it's going to leak water like a sieve.
Here's the thing with like any sort of architectural rendering, especially for big buildings like this, they always cover it in plants because they're like, oh, we care about the environment. But when they actually go to build it, they're like, wait, plants are expensive. And then they never put the plants in.
Well, Amazon
So I would be willing to bet that they just have a giant glass turd by the time this gets built.
The bottom few floors are supposed to be like a dog park and some other stuff open to the public.
And they do claim here, Krista, that all that greenery is going to be incorporated in alternative workspaces.
Plants have to be taken care of. Amazon doesn't like paying workers.
Yeah.
It'll just be glass.
You think squirrels get in there? Do they have squirrels in their trees?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
That'd be a cool life.
Would it?
An Amazon squirrel?
Yeah, I tell you, you got a preview of the Amazon squirrel. It's it's those squirrels that got into the stuff, and they were just horribly obese after a while. And they were just like, I can't.
Oh, yeah,
The cicada squirrels.
They'd be feeding them a lot. Wouldn't
Yeah.
they?
Well, it's happening this year, the cicada squirrels.
It would be a fun life, but probably a short one.
All right, what do we got for tomorrow?
Tomorrow's business, and I don't remember.
I'm going to be late tomorrow, but it'll be fine.
It's fine.
We'll see you then.
See ya.
Hello, everybody. Today's February 10th, and we're doing business and social, and hopefully we can get through this without the internet crapping out.
There's a little bit of robot creeping in. So it turns out there is a outage with the service provider. I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah, it might
We'll
be a little
see.
weird.
Ryan and I will be fine. Krista may robot on out of here. I don't know. We'll see.
The stories might fail to load portions as well, but
They're already all loaded in
Yeah,
the tabs.
the tabs
so-
are okay. But you know who else might be out of here? Not really.
Not really.
No,
No.
I don't think so. I think
He's out of here like Senator Palpatine was out of here.
he will never really give up control of that ship because
Yeah.
it's a powerful ship and he sacrificed a lot to make it.
Jeff Bezos to step down as Amazon CEO and Andy Jassy to take over at Q3. Now, Andy has been there almost as long as Mr. Jeff Bezos, and AWS was kind of sort of his brainchild. So this is probably good for Amazon. Now, Jeff Bezos is still going to be around on the Amazon side of things, but Blue Origin, that's where he's going to focus because he doesn't want to live on this planet anymore.
He's 57.
same.
He looks pretty good for 57.
He does, but I imagine it's all of the science from Ray Kurzweil.
Oh, yeah.
Ray Kurzweil is probably his, private
the-
nutritionist.
It's the Hillary Clinton children blood stuff. Right?
I don't know. I think whatever Ray Kurzweil is doing is even better than whatever Hillary Clinton is doing because she's looks like she's got some miles on her.
It might also be that Bezos is stepping aside so that he can spend his time planning on dealing with Amazon's real problem, because this is definitely the problem that Amazon is going to have in 2021, unless maybe he's got some crazy idea of how to deal with it.
Amazon's anti-union blitz stalks Alabama warehouse workers everywhere, even the bathroom. Stakes couldn't be higher for the e-commerce giant, which is fighting the biggest labor battle in its history. Now, just this week, they mailed that out to this union, so it looks like that's going to happen. Amazon had tried to block that. They were not successful in blocking that. So
When they say stalks you in the bathroom, what they meant is someone from Amazon papered the inside of the stalls, so that when you sit down and close the door, you get anti-union propaganda.
Well, you don't get to use the bathroom at Amazon, so it's not really a big deal.
Did they let you? Well, yeah, you can't be there long, right? I bet those pamphlets are real short.
is there a career path that you go from warehouse worker to AWS engineer?
Mike Rowe would say absolutely. I don't know about in reality. And Andy Jassy, he's kind of being handed a golden egg here. I mean, God, you just have to keep it going on the same track, and Amazon is a juggernaut. But there is one part of Amazon that is absolutely abysmal and should probably be cauterized and removed. But Andy says no. He's dedicating himself to it.
Amazon's next CEO says he's committed to making video games. So this is an interesting story on Bloomberg. You should read it. But my takeaway of this is something completely different. Like, in order for me to explain it, you got to start with Netflix. Because, like, Netflix has content, but they don't have the delivery network. It seems like what he's thinking is they've got the delivery network and the infrastructure, but they don't have the content, and they don't see it as media and video because dealing with those companies is too terrible. They see the Wild West as games. Look at all the indie developers out there. Amazon can just do that with their programming infrastructure and build amazing interactive experiences like, the next work of, A Brave New World or 1984 or A Clockwork Orange or something. We can build that as a game and have, truly iconic literature. I think that's what his vision is, anyway, for the games division of Amazon, but we'll see.
So far, they made that one game that I don't remember the name of. No one does.
It was awful.
And it never got out of the early access phase because people didn't want it.
Yeah, because it was terrible. They were trying the Disney thing of what would people be addicted to, and that didn't work out for them.
I think they did try to do an Overwatch style thing, didn't they?
They should have just bought that horrible Overwatch clone that was actually out before Overwatch.
Battleborn.
Oh,
yeah,
they did.
I remember Battleborn.
Just buy that, put a new skin on it. It's fine.
I don't think that would work.
I didn't mind Battleborn. I think if it had launched at any other time, it might have done better. It's gone forever now.
Google also has a bit of a black sheep among all of their products. And surprisingly, this is the thing that Amazon is best at.
Google Cloud lost $5.6 billion last year on the $13.6 billion revenue. I don't understand how Google managed to do that. You know how I don't understand how Google managed to do that? Our sponsor, Linode. Linode has Google Compute compatible Kubernetes infrastructure for a fraction of the cost of the Google Cloud, and I don't think they're doing anything crazy like spending, tons of venture capital money. But I could be wrong.
Well, what Google is trying to do to shore up that service is not to, help the users like Linode might do.
Thanks, Linode.
They want to make big mergers and acquisitions and join up with big automotive companies. And here's the terrifying thing about this headline. Why does the car company need cloud services for the cars? Is it because they're going to be storing everything about your driving?
Yes.
Yes.
Bloomberg has the story. Google and Ford have partnered up for cloud computing. Yeah, this is just, I'm telling you now, like what Ryan said, this is the darkest timeline you can imagine. Unscrupulous automotive companies vacuuming up your data, always on listening in your car, just horrible, darkest timeline thing you can imagine. There's somebody in a boardroom that's like, oh, that sounds like we could generate some revenue from that.
Yeah, we could sell. Oh, the data team would love to get that.
We at Ford think that while you're sleeping, we can have your car out doing things like grocery delivery.
Or mining Bitcoin. And don't think that that's just Ford. They're all doing it. Tesla's already doing it. Yeah. They're all going to be doing it soon if they're not already.
That's literally how Tesla built their self-driving empire, is using all that data.
And, I pointed out, I made a mistake there. I said there was one thing.
There were two.
That Google's really bad at. There are definitely two. And this one, how long did this last?
18 months.
Was it that long?
Yeah. There were several people that said this is going to last a year to 18 months, and they called it.
This was before the pandemic?
Was it?
I don't remember, but it doesn't seem like that long. Of course, the time compression is so severe in 2020. I have no idea. But this should surprise absolutely nobody. We knew this was coming.
Google Stadia has shut down their internal studios, changing business focus. Oh, nobody wants Google original games. Now, it's funny. NVIDIA, in all of the news stories and comments on this story, NVIDIA has been running ads saying, hey, we've got a cloud gaming company. Come work for us.
The NVIDIA one didn't catch on. I mean, they were the first, maybe not the first, but very early. People just didn't go for it.
Yeah.
And maybe some of those game devs can get a job over at Amazon. Seems like they're going to throw money at that problem for another year or two. And another issue that Google is having, certainly not to that degree, but something that over time I think could cause them a pretty big problem is their internal strife. And it used to be that people would write scathing newsletters and set up little meetings and do passive-aggressive things. But now they're just noping right out.
2 Google engineers resign over firing of AI ethics researcher Timnit Gebru. Now, we've covered this 3 or 4 weeks now. This is new stuff that's happening, which is there's 2 more people that have left that department. So I think that's sort of a shift in culture. When you lose that many people in a division, especially a relatively, these are really brilliant researchers.
We don't know that.
Well, yeah, we don't know that. But
I would put money that Gebru is not brilliant.
The culture shift, though, is definitely happening, and that's never good for corporate identity.
Especially
better or worse.
Especially when your corporate identity is basically the Death Star.
So, okay, then do you think that these departures mean that it's moving more toward the Death Star or more toward, standing up for individual rights?
It's that's the conflict.
Yeah.
The hiring teams and a lot of the new people coming in are this new wave of communists, basically. But the people at the top are realists, and that will never reconcile. So one side has to win.
The pragmatists and the idealists. A war as old as time.
And one side has billions and billions and billions of dollars.
We're doomed.
AT&T, as we have showcased time and time again, is a terrible company. They have managed to take an amazing infrastructure head start and grind it into useless powder. And most of the time, we're talking about the TV stuff they're doing. Not even the ISP, because their ISP is so bad, we don't even talk about it. But one man is talking about it because he is fed up.
AT&T customer since 1960 buys a Wall Street Journal print ad $1,100 to complain of slow speeds. He ran it in the somewhere in Texas and New York. So he wanted investors to see it and also AT&T management. Yeah, there's a nice letter. It's broken right now.
Twitter.
We shouldn't tempt fate and reload that or anything. But you should read the letter. It's basically like, I'm in North Hollywood and everybody's working from home, and the best you can do is 3 meg, which is really like 5 meg or really 1.5 megabit. And that's really the best you can do. I mean, come on.
And he's
Fair
right.
point.
Yeah. And the worst part is, like we always talk about when it comes to ISPs, that man basically has a choice of either using AT&T or going with a cable company, if he even has that choice where he lives. North Hollywood probably does have an alternative, but the alternatives are often really bad themselves.
Yeah. Comcast has lifted the upload to 5 megabit amid complaints its low-income plan is too slow. 50 meg down and 5 megabit up.
Krista, I think you said Newhouse is not fiber, right?
It's not fiber, no. The first one we looked at that ended up having massive electrical problems, that one had fiber, but this one does not.
So you're going to be on plain old. I got the letter today
Scrub Spectrum.
from Spectrum, and it was like, we doubled your speed.
Oh, so you were right.
I mean, it's nice. It's still not acceptable.
It still craps out as evidenced by just now.
Today's, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing about ISPs is that the little bit of water and the crust of bread that they give us to sustain ourselves, they have the audacity to complain that we're consuming too much.
Cable ISP warns that excessive uploaders, and it says that the network can't handle heavy usage. Mediacom says heavy uploaders harm the network even if they don't exceed the data cap. So they've got a data cap in place, and there are some people that are uploading data, and they're saying, oh, you're using too much. And it's like, but that's not, I haven't hit my cap. And they're like, it doesn't matter, you're using too much.
Do you think this is someone who doesn't understand the concept of cord cutting?
Yeah.
That's kind of the opposite.
So literal.
But that should be a coax, right?
Yeah.
Shh, it's fine. The editor approved it because they needed an image for this article.
The editor approved it because it was 4:30 on a Friday, and it was time to go home.
Well, heading back to the old Wall Street bet drama, we find out that Wall Street bets caught the big financial companies by surprise. That doesn't happen very often because they spend a lot of money, a lot of time and money, making sure they know about everything that could make them money. And this was no exception after they got a little bit of time.
Wall Street is keeping very close tabs on Wall Street bets. Here's how. Basically, they're just scraping literally everything for stocks. And so it's hilarious because the people on Wall Street bets have been clued into that. And now they're doing things to try to fool the bots. Much as we do when we talk about things and deliberately mispronounce things, which is exciting.
So this company just immediately put this together and came up with this thing where they're, monitoring Wall Street bets. Anytime a stock ticker is shown on Wall Street bets, this AI scrapes it, processes it, tries to figure out something contextual about the language around it, and feeds it to a dashboard. And you can pay to get access to that dashboard.
Now, these same people are also spending a crazy amount of money on bots because, if you just go click on users on, just a random post of a user and, look at their post history, they post the same thing on dozens and dozens of subreddit. There are thousands of bots. Nice.
And I think one thing that might come up here that's really crazy, but I can see it playing out, is that the Robinhood UI, Krista, I would love for you to take a look at the Robinhood UI. You would need to understand a little bit more about how stock trading works to see how bad it really is, but it's really bad.
Is it Google Analytics bad, or?
It's just, it's kind of pretty and it has rounded corners everywhere, but functionally it's a nightmare. To cancel an order, you have to go to 5 clicks through your account history, and then you have to click on the order in your account history, and then it's like an API call to populate that button to cancel it. Yeah. It's disgusting. But it looks like a modern app. It's very sleek. It's very attractive to the young people. And some people say, oh, that makes them think it's a game. It's kind of like the whole flavored cigarette argument.
Yeah,
So,
I see where they're going with that, and I think it's hideously evil, but yeah.
But will we see a court case
Will.
where the UI becomes a major point?
They're absolutely telegraphing that the plebs doing trading through Robinhood is not allowed, and this is how they're going to just shut it down.
So there's going to be Robinhood on one side and a Bloomberg terminal. If you don't know what a Bloomberg terminal is, it's just like straight text and lines. And one is more professional, I guess. I don't know.
I would think.
Go ahead.
I would think the thing that, if you were to talk about the UI, the thing that they should address, which they won't because they don't care, would be addressing the dark pattern of making it really difficult to do things. Like things that they don't want you to do. That's what they should be addressing when they discuss the UI, but they're not going to talk about that. They're just going to be like, it's too pretty. You can't do that.
No,
I think, but it's not functional.
I think they're absolutely going to do that.
Yeah.
Read the headline.
What? Oh,
Headline.
FINRA. Oh, which one of us?
You.
FINRA targets game-like digital platforms.
So FINRA, now here's an interesting thing about FINRA. Did either of you know that FINRA, much like the Federal Reserve, is a private company?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. But they do handle Wall Street regulations. And I think it's kind of like voluntary.
Yeah.
In fact, you know who didn't go through the FINRA training and get certified? The Robinhood CEO.
I think the more interesting thing here is that this article alludes to one of the reasons that Elon Musk has such a problem with the SEC and FINRA is because they are private companies and blah, blah, blah.
It makes sense.
But they're telegraphing exactly what they're going to do. This is how they're going to shut down Robinhood and things like it.
And for a while, Robinhood got a bit of a reprieve thanks to Big Brother Google stepping in and saying, it's like, no, of course these people couldn't actually dislike this product. But it seems like they have removed that shield.
Robinhood plummets back down to a 1-star rating on Google Play, following thousands of negative reviews. Although it seemed like they were cleaning it up again at the time we're shooting this. Maybe some game of cat and mouse.
It's disgusting. I mean, is it not a valid argument? The app itself, can you divorce the app itself from the decisions of the brokers to screw you? Do they not go hand in hand?
It seems like they do.
Isn't that a valid reason not to like that app?
Yeah. Are they going to do something to earn, can you go back and change your vote later? And be like, okay, they fixed it.
I don't know. I don't think you can, right? On the Google Play Store.
You can in some scenarios, I know.
But at least as of February 2nd, the numbers from Robinhood do not seem to mesh with all this hate that the world is giving it.
Robinhood screwed its users, but is more popular than ever. Like Facebook, Robinhood seems to be poised to pull through controversy as it draws new users and investment despite a business model antagonistic to users.
And we did find out that the billions of dollars they pulled down in revolving credit was just to cover the clearinghouse margin call, basically. So now that things settle down, they could easily pay that money back. They might survive this.
I wonder if they invested in GameStop when it was like $6 a share.
For the love of God, if there are not insider trading rules about the broker.
I don't think there is. I think that's the whole thing. It's like is it insider trading if you do your trade a split second before you execute thousands of other people's trades?
Insider trading is a weird law. Insider trading is purely 100% did you know something?
Yeah.
And you have to prove that you didn't if they come after you.
That seems impossible. Even Martha Stewart's like, what? No, I mean, think about, like, you do the trading platform and it only executes trades every 15 seconds, but you can use the preceding 14 seconds to look at the trades you're about to execute and preemptively execute whatever other trades you want to execute and then execute their trades.
That would definitely be insider trading by their definition of it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see.
But I'm just saying that there's evidence that it's kind of designed that way.
It's a dark future, and perhaps the only escape that we'll have from it will be to get our joy wire installed so that we can just tune out and just have artificial happiness. And maybe we're one step closer to that.
Elon Musk says his startup Neuralink has wired up a monkey to play video games using its mind. And perhaps the darkest thing that Elon Musk has ever said in response to this is the reporter asked him, was like, but is the monkey really happy? And his response to that was, well, the monkey's not unhappy. And that's just so dark. So dark.
I hope they're not making the monkey play Call of Duty. I hope they're giving him some solid indie gems. Maybe a little. What if the monkey could play Dwarf Fortress with his mind?
That would be an incredible monkey.
And I'm not talking about that like don't even survive the winter nonsense. I want 100 dwarves in his colony, and I want to watch that.
Are there a couple of college students somewhere that are hooking up, all their pet animals for like the next search engine, and like that's the horrible darkness is like the next Google is just a basement full of primates that are doing your searches?
If they are, it's very illegal to be doing those kinds of surgeries in your home. You shouldn't do that to your cats.
The picture, I like to imagine it's like a before and after. Like before the monkey, he looks fairly healthy. He's sitting straight. And then after he has the thing installed, he's all hunched over. He's unkempt. He's sad.
The perfect assassin is like, oh, this is what was the book, The Manchurian Candidate? It was kind of dated. But it was like it was the perfect assassin because he didn't know he was the assassin.
That was a fine movie not that long ago. A Denzel Washington movie.
Oh, neat.
You should check that out if you haven't seen it. And that's nice. That's something Musk can brag about. But he did have to eat a little bit of crow this week, and I got to give him credit. He ate it. He ate every bit of it.
Elon Musk admits that Tesla has quality problems. Finally, all those videos that we did months ago, we were like, the screen, the glue is running out of it. That should be a little bit better. And people in the comments were like,
what were they like?
So yeah, one of the guys who had become popular online for fixing Teslas and breaking them down and explaining what was wrong with them actually interviewed Musk and really let him have it. I mean, it was cordial, but it wasn't a fluff piece by any means of the imagination. And honestly, what other response could he have had?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think he handled it well.
He was in a corner.
He's just like, yeah, we're working on it.
And some of that humility might have been recently developed because of this.
Tesla has recalled 135,000 cars after pushing back against regulators. This is the flash wear out. Remember, we first covered this a year or 18 months ago. So it's good that they're finally recalling it, but it's frustrating and bad because it's potentially a really trivial fix that Tesla was just digging its heels in over. But there are a lot of Tesla owners that have already had this fixed out of warranty because so many people have experienced the problem.
And he didn't address that. I don't think those people get any relief. They are going to do it for free. He didn't want to do it for free, but the regulators are like, listen, you're doing it for free. But he did say you can either get it done for free to get the same chip installed, or you could upgrade the entire screen system for a small fee.
Most people will probably do that.
But you'll get a discount for that fee.
Most people will probably do that, though. I mean, it makes sense to do that because then your trading value of your car is that much higher. Was that also the article that dropped the nugget that Tesla is only profitable because it sells its energy credits? Oh, that was a whole other story.
Jesus, man.
Next one.
Sorry.
Stop the foreshadowing.
Sorry.
So yeah, here's the thing. If you are a Tesla stock owner, you should be a cold sweat right now. And I've talked about this a lot, and every time you commenters are like, that's not true. It's absolutely true. It's always been true. They are not a profitable car company.
CNN Business. Tesla's dirty little secret. Its net profit does not come from selling cars. And they used the same stock photo here, which is part of my confusion.
I know. See it in business.
So there was one line in that other story about this story, and it was like, oh, I wish there was more information about that. And then I clicked the next story in the news list, and it was like, oh yeah, here we go.
I tried to pre-sort a little bit this week.
Yeah, it worked out.
So 40%.
It's
40%.
$1.6 billion a year, and they only made $700 million. So they would have been pretty far in the black just selling cars. I mean, pretty far in the red just selling cars.
Now, you might be thinking, well, who cares, right? I mean, they're making money, but here's the problem. You see, with the credits...
They're going away by 2025.
It's mandated that you have to build a certain number of zero-emission cars if you are a car company. Alternatively, if you don't build a certain number of zero-emission cars, you can buy the credits from a company that, for example, builds nothing but zero-emission cars. But as more and more companies put zero-emission cars onto their list of cars, they will not need to buy those credits anymore. Yikes.
And 2025 is when they anticipate that Tesla's not going to... Those credits aren't going to be worth anything anymore.
But in the meantime, they might actually go up in value because it seems like all the other car companies are having a particularly difficult time making cars.
GM is hit by a chip shortage. They're going to cut production at 4 major plants. So General Motors becomes the latest automaker hit by a global shortage of semiconductor chips. As the U.S. automaker said on Wednesday, it's going to take down production next week at 4 assembly plants. Kind of makes sense. It's starting to line up with Chinese New Year. So
is this casual Friday at the GM plant?
I had the same thought, and I was like, that's really judgmental of me, but maybe they're allowed to wear shorts and tank tops to work.
I think actually that kind of clothing in an assembly line environment is preferable.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like,
less to snag.
Toyota's public relations people are, yes, our people look better. It's just photos.
Their people are all khakis and polos
all the time.
Yeah,
but that's stupid.
Yeah,
I mean, I made that joke, but that's the way to run a factory. Don't make your people miserable. Don't Amazon your people.
Why is there a weird lump in your pants on one side? Oh, that's your pee bottle. It's part of the uniform.
Take some of these anti-union flyers and mop up that piss. Apple is maybe also stealing a little bit of that subsidy thunder when they bring out their electric car.
Apple invests $3.6 billion in Kia Motors, according to Apple Car report says. Or I got that completely wrong. I had an aneurysm. I'm sorry.
I understood what you meant, but I was like, wait, what?
Apple will invest $3.6 billion in Kia Motors to build an Apple car, report says. Yeah. So, but again, like, I'm really starting to read into this stuff, and this is so, like, Bob heard that Sam said that some other person said that they had lunch with Tim Cook and he was investing in Kia. And it's just like, come on, guys, really? This is crazy.
Both Apple and Kia refused to comment.
Yeah.
Also, this picture with just like dirty snow on what kind of stock photo is this?
There wasn't a stock photo, so they went outside because they're working from home because they drive a Kia.
It's Getty Images.
Of all the pictures, maybe that was the cheapest one from Getty Images they could get. They were like, this story isn't really a story. It's just something we need.
It's 39 cents.
And when Apple brings out a new product, you can usually count on 2 things. One, it's going to be really, really, really overpriced. And 2, only the really like uppity people are going to buy the newest. Only the early adopters, or the only early adopters, are going to be rich people with more money than sense.
Apple's mixed reality headset could cost $3,000 and include 8K displays. Sounds like the details behind Apple's AR/VR hardware are starting to solidify.
So this is going to be AR, but not with transparent lenses. This is just a ring of cameras around the outside, total black inside the headset with really amazing displays.
They faked us out with the glasses. That was all I could think about with this. Is like, you remember they bought the glasses company
And we saw some mock-ups.
yeah, and it was just like,
Yeah.
okay, have they given up on that idea? Was it so horrifying that they were like, there's no way we can do this?
Not a lot of other details, but definitely seems like it's going to be a high dollar item and it's going to be high performance.
Cheaper than HoloLens 2, as the article points out.
But a very limited use case situation there. I mean, I don't think you're going to pay that. You're not going to use that for gaming. That's going to be like professional situations, right?
You're going to go back to it's a really advanced version of the Joywire thing where you're in a cubicle working for Amazon somewhere and they're having you do stuff with your brain. And like, you just got to wear that for 8 hours a day.
You get the monkey implant.
Yeah.
And that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
Uber is still trying to figure out how not to go out of business during the pandemic. And this is maybe not a bad acquisition because if there's one thing people want right now, it's to forget.
Uber is buying booze delivery company Drizzly for $1.1 billion. Again, this is another investment that doesn't make sense to me. This doesn't make sense on the same level as AT&T buying DirecTV. It makes no sense.
But there is one thing I did not previously understand about Drizzly. Drizzly is not quite the same as Uber. This is actually the business model I think you've mentioned before of a local liquor store signs up to Drizzly and uses their infrastructure, but you provide your own delivery drivers and everything, and the liquor and everything like that.
Yeah.
I don't know do you think you price it yourself?
I don't think you do.
That could be rough.
I mean, you can set a floor, but, it's still demand-based. Because I think that's how Drizzly makes some of their money. But again, I don't see how that's worth $1 billion. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it'd be worth it.
Probably not. I mean, they've definitely made some investments that weren't worth it. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Bitcoin, Bitcoin had its big thunder, and it was definitely overshadowed by the GameStop nonsense, and has since rallied back up. I think we're nearly back up to 40,000 at this point, or maybe like $2
Yeah,
grand
it
away
says
from it.
37.
But that's is that the current price, Krista?
Yes, I just looked it up.
Oh, it's on the sidebar here. Yeah, nearly 38. And some of that might have to do with this headline, because this would definitely increase adoption.
Visa wants to work with exchanges and wallets on digital gold Bitcoin. This isn't the first time they said that, but every time they say that, it goes up.
Here's the thing, though. He was very careful to point out, he was like, I don't believe that Bitcoin can be used in transactions. What I think is Bitcoin can be stored not as a currency, but as a commodity and converted into fiat through Visa. So they want to not let you spend your Bitcoin, but to hold it and convert it into cash whenever you want. So we'll see. Still should be good for the price. Moving on to social media, Parler. Boy, did they get a lot of PR. Do you think there's anybody in the U.S. who doesn't know the name Parler at this point?
There's no such thing as bad press.
And I think they did get a ton of new users, obviously, after all of this. And then they had their whole, up and down thing. But it seems like there's some internal strife.
Parler CEO John Matze says the company's board has fired him. This article says we don't know why he was fired, but he's spoken out and said that the reason he was fired is because he was trying to say we need to rein in those QAnon and other things I'm going to deliberately mispronounce in order to, not be a horrible, awful platform. And so he says that that's why the board fired him.
And the board, there's a politician on the board. One of those, politicians who's in that world. And apparently they are organizing the board against him. Well, they did successfully. Yeah. So he is out.
So I don't know if that's true or not, that he was saying that they needed to police their content, but that's what he said. They said. But their platform was not well coded and dangerously insecure.
Well, I think it's pretty clear at this point that certain speech is just not going to be tolerated by the big tech companies. Yeah. So he's right about that in some ways. I mean, it's terrifying, but he is right. It's either bow down to them or don't exist, which
Or develop your own infrastructure, which they apparently don't want to do.
Well, they did that. They did that in Russia and got their IP addresses repossessed, which is, I think, going a bit far.
Krista, what you want him to? Okay, so he has to do his own payment platform and ISP now.
I'm not saying it's like it makes sense. I'm saying that like that would probably be the course of action for them if they're.
I guarantee you that wouldn't work. They'd still be able to shut that down, and they would. Twitter has. The age-old problem, you operate one of these social media companies and you come out and you say things like, we're committed to free speech and we would never silence our users and we would never do stuff like that.
Absolutely
and then
would.
A big government like China or India steps in and they're like, whatever you want, we'll just do whatever.
Twitter restricts numerous high-profile accounts in India following quote-unquote legal demand, although about 12 hours later, they put them back.
Now, I don't recognize any of these names, but it does point out that they're mostly activists.
We do have a lot of audience in India, so something you should pay attention to.
Yeah, political dissidents and that kind of thing. People who are outspoken about certain things that they don't want them to be outspoken about.
Be better than us. Don't be that way.
Also, there's this farmer protest that's going on, and apparently they're not big fans of that at Twitter either.
Oh yeah, India has blacklisted Greta Thunberg because she's like, we need to help the farmers in India. So why is that?
Did you see there's a new Greta Thunberg turned 18. There's now a new 16-year-old activist girl. They immediately found another one. It's like there was a button on her arm that started blinking, and they're like, see you later, Greta. Enjoy adulthood. It's nothing like you expected. And finally, Facebook and Apple, the big standoff continues, and they keep just taking these little swipes at each other. I don't know if this is going to change anything, but Facebook desperately wants to try and change public opinion about this whole nutritional fact thing.
It's a clever way to deal with it. Facebook is testing notification to users about Apple privacy changes. So in the app, before the app requests the permission, you get this thing from Facebook that's like, oh, now you're about to get a scary warning, but don't worry, we're the good guys. And then you get the Apple pop-up. So it kind of changes the conversation around the Apple pop-up. This is actually kind of brilliant. They probably brought in some psychologists to deal with this.
And Apple has explicitly stated that you can talk about that policy in your own terms of service. You can reference it. You can talk about it. You just can't, get around it.
Dollars to donuts. Tim Cook is going to shut this down on the news next week. We're going to be talking about how Tim Cook was like, no, we ain't having this. Because honestly, I bet Google is looking at this. You know how Google hasn't updated their apps in months? Google's going to be like, oh, we didn't think of that. That's brilliant.
Did you freeze up, Krista?
Yes. Yes, she did.
Well, that's the end of the show anyway, so we'll try to resolve that. But imagine...
What now?
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
Are we back?
Look at that. Look at those. Oh, you're back now. Can you hear us?
I was flailing my arms. Can you guys...
Oh, there it goes again. Your frozen screen there was just such a look of surprise.
Oh, yeah, I was like, oh, and then it went out. It seems to be fine now. Oh.
Imagine that you're the Facebook dev team that has to deal with this, and like the amount of tweaks and changes that are coming through your email every 5 minutes
always makes me want to slip my wrists.
It's like, are you okay? The legal team wants to change this. Oh, you know what? Let's make the pop-up 5 pixels bigger. Let's change the font. We're changing the font.
We've decided to go back to 2 spaces after every period.
I guarantee you that's happening.
It's like, I went to computer science school for this. Why is this happening?
I'm back.
My favorite one, honestly, is still the whole, like, if you have an iPhone and you use Chrome and you turn your phone sideways, it gives a web page extra margin for the notch. And if you turn it back, it doesn't do away with the extra margin for the notch. And they haven't fixed that in Chrome because this is a pending update. And some people just lost their minds.
You still with us, Krista?
I am.
Because the padding, and it's like, look, I don't have anything to do with that. That's outside my wheelhouse.
Well, good news, Krista. You've made it back just in time for the episode to be over.
Oh, fantastic.
Friday will be security. We haven't done security yet, right?
Security.
Right.
Security and nonsense.
Nice. All right. Before it cuts out again, bye. Hello, everybody. Today is February 12th, and today we're doing security and nonsense. The most boring section with the most exciting section of the week.
Sometimes security can be exciting, Krista. You know when security is most exciting? When it involves nudity.
No, we can't say that this early in the episode.
We're gonna get flagged.
So if you remember,
Norpub
had a little issue, and some people were claiming that some of their models were perhaps not of legal age to be doing such a thing. And I guess you got to give them some credit. They pretty much scorched the earth.
Visa canceled them.
They
Just
went
still
in.
canceled.
Anybody who was not a verified account was not only terminated the account, they deleted everything. 80% of their content was deleted. And so now they're trying to figure out a way, how do we move forward? And the idea seems to be to force the models, that they call them, they've always referred to them as models, to go through a lot of hoops.
Norpub announces biometric technology to verify users. Following bans from payment processors and mass deletion of most content, Norpub announced new details on its improved trust and safety policies. Will this be enough to win back Visa? I don't think so. I think Visa has decided that they get the death penalty, which is sad.
So you got to go through the whole driver's license check and confirm your phone number. And there's actually a company that they are hiring to do this, a third-party company.
That's totally not going to be a data breach later. That's just a dumpster fire waiting to happen.
Yeah, Yodi is the name of that company. And here's the weird thing that I didn't understand about this, though. And this is a sensitive topic, but you cannot, well, you can, and you will. You can and you will, but you shouldn't condemn me for trying to understand it. Please explain to me. They said that somehow that identity verification process is dangerous for transgender people. Why?
Wouldn't they just be verifying your age? Like, they need your birth date, not your gender.
Well, you got to give them a lot of information, but how is it different for them versus everybody else?
Well, I can give you a dangerous scenario in general, and that is because Visa has canceled them, they're going to go through all these hoops. The data is going to leak out. Somebody's going to get murdered. Like, their stalker is going to be able to find them more easily now. And somebody's just going to get murdered because of that. So in effect, Visa is responsible for a murder here.
But that's a murder of lust and adoration, not a murder of intolerance, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, but I could see how.
But
It could go the other way, though.
Yeah,
but they would be in no more danger than the regular girls, right?
right.
So yeah,
Don't
understand how it's. Maybe I'm not understanding it. Maybe there's something else going on there.
Well,
but
maybe there's more hate and intolerance for that than there is people that don't understand
Creeps. Yeah.
rejection.
maybe.
Creeps, yeah.
I mean, there's a discussion about mental. No, we can't have that discussion.
We don't have mental health insurance here in America.
So
We don't have regular health insurance in America.
just stay safe on that website. And it wouldn't be a security section if we didn't have a security story about browser add-ons and how they're bad.
Malicious Chrome and Edge add-ons have a novel way to hide on 3 million devices. 28 malicious extensions disguise traffic as Google Analytics data. This was brilliant. It was cache control headers and actual real analytics data. So it seems like the malware authors were using this for actual analytics as well as data exfiltration.
Well, I think the analytics were, they didn't care about the analytics.
No.
But they certainly were running regular analytics because
Yes.
that was an easy way to
Yeah.
send it up. Some people might argue that Google Analytics in itself is malware because it's tracking us. Remember Solar Winds? God, how many crises ago was that?
I bet they're so thankful that so many other things have been just completely on fire.
But of course, we keep discovering more and more depth to how bad it was.
Hackers lurked in SolarWinds' email system for at least 9 months, the CEO has said. Investigators still don't know how the company was breached in an attack that will cost millions. Probably tens, if not hundreds of millions. If you take into account how much third parties are going to have to spend auditing their stuff, it's probably over $100 million. Way to help the economy. Good job, SolarWinds.
The broken window fallacy. So they knew that their Office 365 had been compromised, but now there's another Office 365 instance that might have been compromised from the first one, and the first one went back much further than anybody thought.
Yeah.
So
once again, I keep saying it's the hack that keeps on giving. This is going to be true for we don't know how deep this rabbit hole goes, but I assure you it is quite deep.
And in fact, it gave us another government target, this time the Department of Agriculture.
Exclusive. Suspected Chinese hackers use SolarWinds bug to spy on U.S. payroll agency. Now, this was probably a crime of opportunity. They probably weren't in on it, but they were like, oh, yes, we've been tracking this thing for a while. We could just use the SolarWinds thing and solve our problem. Ta-da, we're in.
And they believe that the Chinese hack and the Russian hack were not any kind of collusion.
Yeah.
It just happened to be they both knew.
They both watched the Level 1 news and were like, oh, yes, we can use this to further our interests. Nice. Lateral movement. All right.
If you're a mobile developer, then there's another thing to worry about this week. This is one of the many supply chain attacks where you might have a product that you think is perfectly fine, and in fact, it has been perfectly fine for years. And all of a sudden,
hacker group inserted malware in NoxPlayer Android emulator. Attackers targeted only a handful of victims, only 5 detected until now in countries such as Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Sri Lanka. That's too bad, because I've actually used this in the past.
The cool thing about those that add-on attack, they had some really good mitigation in there. If you had other add-ons that are associated with web development, it would disable itself.
Yeah.
And if you had the any kind of like the developer window or anything open that could observe the exfiltrating the data, it would disable itself. Also waited 3 days to arm itself.
Yeah.
So if you're a researcher, you got to leave it in a sandbox for a while to see it.
Level 1 VFIO tutorials are finally coming in vogue. It's like we were 10 years ahead of the curve, and that's basically like that kind of thing is going to be basic computer hygiene in like another year, which is just sad.
Chris, one thing I know about your future is you are going to be spending a lot of time at Lowe's and or Home Depot.
Yes, most likely.
But if you are searching for those websites, Krista, if for some reason, instead of typing homedepot.com into the URL bar, you type it into the Google search bar, as many people are want to do, watch out.
Beware. Oh.
Go ahead.
I'll read it. Malicious Home Depot ad gets top spot in Google search.
I'm not surprised about this. This happens a lot. Most of the time when this happens, it's up to Home Depot or whoever, notices that to complain. So Home Depot's, search engine team was asleep at the wheel, so it makes sense this was up forever.
Now this is listed as homedepot.com, and it says homedepot.com, and everything looks very normal, but here is the set of redirects that you will go into were you to click on that. And you will end up on call support for assistance5.ml. Not a Home Depot affiliated company.
Yeah. You know why I would never click on that, though? Is because of the giant bold text at the top that says ad.
Well, Krista, you're a power user.
But also, I have already started looking for certain things. And Home Depot's SEO, way better than Lowe's. And we don't even have a Home Depot super close.
Home Depot's website is also way better than Lowe's. Home Depot does a much better job of showing you exactly in the store where everything is.
Lowe's just rolled that feature out. It's very good.
They had it before, but it wasn't as good. I couldn't find everything I was looking for.
It's gotten very good for me. But yeah, in the beginning, it was crap.
But the other really, really impressive thing about that is that ad, the series of redirects logged your IP, and if it had seen your IP in the previous 24 hours, it would take you to homedepot.com.
Interesting.
So it happens one time, and you're like, oh, God, call my nephew. Something ain't right. And then the nephew comes over and is like, oh, no, it's fine.
I can't reproduce it, yeah.
If you're just now getting into Perl scripting and you're looking for some resources, watch out.
Perl.com domain stolen, now using IP address tied to malware. Oh, no. They'll probably get this back. They probably got this back by the time this article's live.
Yeah, the guy tweeted and he was like, I really don't know what happened here. And can somebody help me with that? And some researchers started looking into it. They actually got the domain back in the middle of, was it 2019 or 2020?
2020.
And they've just been sitting on it and actually pointing it to the right places. They left the DNS alone. And Then they made some changes around Christmas to change the ownership to themselves, and now finally have actually changed the records.
Not good.
It's a Chinese owner, or at least it looks like a Chinese owner. And you remember when we talk about leaks, one of the things about leaks that I think a lot of people don't realize is like a leak happens and then the memory of the internet rapidly moves on to the next thing. But it's not like those leaks are done. Once the data's out there, it's out there.
Yeah.
And somebody can come along and pick it up and do whatever they want with it, like this.
Facebook's users' phone numbers are for sale through a Telegram bot. It's $20 per number unless you're buying in bulk.
So this Telegram bot hits you up and it's like, hey, you got Facebook friends, you want their phone number? And you say, yes, I would like that. All you have to do is supply either the Facebook ID or the phone number, and for $20, it'll give you the other half.
I'm Facebook friends with Matthew McConaughey. Click. I now know his phone number.
You think he used his real phone number?
No.
I said, do you think celebrities really have Facebook pages, though?
Yeah, some of them really enjoy that stuff.
Absolutely.
See also like Shatner's
they have
Twitter.
official ones, but like, do they have personal ones where it's like just their friends from high school?
Yeah, and you would have to get that ID, but if you could, that might actually be the real phone number.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I think Matthew could afford a couple of burner phones.
Well, remember we did the story and it was like the Prime Minister of Australia or something, that one guy figured it out from his airport, just from a picture of his airport passport or his airport boarding pass. It went from boarding pass to personal cell phone number of the Prime Minister or something.
But there was some social engineering there.
Yeah.
He got somebody on the phone. So I guess that wouldn't be impossible here either. Although you are just dealing with a bot. Whoever's harvesting this Telegram stuff is not even spending time talking to you. He's just using a bot.
What a business model.
And if you get a lot of Amazon packages, this one, I mean, maybe it shouldn't concern you, but in terms of just like appreciating workers' rights and human rights, think about how miserable this is all day long. All day long, all you do is drive around in the cold and hump packages up to people's porches, and now you have a robot berating you the entire time. Oh, and let's not forget, you are forced into a delivery timeline that is completely unrealistic. The only way to win is to cheat, is to speed, is to run stop signs, is to cut every corner you can. You know who doesn't like that?
Amazon plans to install always-on surveillance cameras in its delivery vehicle to improve safety conditions, but also to monitor drivers.
I think it might be the other way around.
Yeah.
So not only can the robot report you, now they were very quick to point out it's only local storage unless there's an event. What is an event? Well, something like distracted driving or please slow down or you didn't stop at that stop sign. Then it will begin to upload that section of time to be reviewed by the Amazon overlords.
So it's basically just going to...
Or, you stop at a gas station to take a pee break and get a muffin.
A what, Krista?
The truck is like, no.
What were those two words you used? We don't talk about that at Amazon.
We've detected 371 hard braking events.
Are you still with us, Krista? Oh.
Oh, no.
Oh. The still frames are going to be so good for this episode.
Sorry.
All right. Oh, are you back?
I'm back.
Oh, okay. What did you say there? We didn't. You were frozen.
Oh, I was saying, like, if you stopped at like a gas station to get a muffin and take a pee break, I'm sure you would also get your stuff uploaded because it's like he's not being massively productive.
Yeah. Now you can turn it off, but not while the engine's running. You think they'll ever really let you turn it off?
No.
I think the screen probably turns off, right?
Yeah. It's like the LED goes off, but it doesn't stop.
So yeah, that's unfortunate. Although there are some Amazon drivers that are for sure stealing the packages. Maybe this will help catch them. We'll see. This one, I thought, you might be thinking, why did you put this in the security section? I can think of a million different ways this could become a security issue, can't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
We always, if you want to think about the worst case scenario, which is where this will go, insurance companies. That's the darkness.
Pixel phones will be able to read your heart rate with their cameras. Google Fit app will measure your heart and respiratory rate. So it's like, hey, would you like a break on your insurance, a discount? Let us just read your finger. And it's like, we're never insuring you again.
So I guess the pulse, you put your thumb directly onto the lens. And I guess it, uses the lights. But for the breath rate, you just film your chest and face. And it can tell what your breathing is based on that.
Scary.
So that means that eventually, probably in a short amount of time, they will be able to measure both of those things from a distance without you knowing about it.
What if you're someone like me whose, fight or flight response is a little bit messed up, so your heart rate randomly goes up?
You're going to pay a lot for insurance, I think.
Is that anxiety or a potential heart problem? Either way, we're not insuring you.
Every time this girl goes to Kroger, we see a massive spike.
We don't know why.
She's going to have a coronary.
She drove past a dairy farm and almost went off the road. Now, this is one of those stories where you're going to be like, you guys already did this. And it's like, oh, no, this is a different one. And they're like, no, you already did the different one. No, this is another different one.
The third.
None of these people read these news articles, and oh boy, do they need to, because all the previous ones were like, oh, that could have been a disaster. Well, welcome to the disaster.
We spoke to a guy who got his junk locked in a cage by a hacker. Yes, it was the very same one. Finally, we found somebody who didn't get the memo about things being updated.
Is that an eggplant?
Yeah, it is an eggplant. Because the eggplant emoji, you see.
Barbed wire. That's not the emoji. That's an actual eggplant.
No, I mean, that's why they...
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
So this is the same device, and it's designed so that when you install it, you cannot... you can't get to attention because it will physically hurt you. It's like... And then your partner grants you that permission. And some people like that, apparently. So this guy was wearing it, just hanging around the house by himself. And he heard the click. And he was like, oh, she wants to play.
She did not, in fact, want to.
She was completely unaware.
Narrator. Oh, that wasn't good.
So turned out it was a hacker. The hacker got in touch with him. And the hacker was like, I'll take it off if you send me some Bitcoin. Don't negotiate with him. He sent the Bitcoin, and guess what the hacker said?
You got to send more
Bitcoin. So how did it roll out? Bolt cutters, and he got nicked during that. He said he didn't have a scar, but there was blood. You think he'll ever go back to that kind of device again?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You think so?
Maybe a manual one.
I think he's discovered that he has another fetish.
Oh, bolt cutters?
Yeah.
Yeah. He pointed out that he was like, I never thought about it, but they should really give you a key for these things.
Yeah, or a safety or an emergency switch.
It's funny, he said when he called the partner, she was like, no, of course I didn't do that. And he was like, oh, right. Safe word. She's like, no, really. I didn't do that. Krista, one thing that you are maybe overhyped about. Overhyping is something that you are prone to, especially in your current situation of housing. But you have admitted that you just bought seeds.
I did. It's way too early. I won't be able to plant these until at least March. I bought radishes and iceberg lettuce, which I should be able to put in the ground around like March.
Did you get any forbidden seeds?
No.
Do you not want forbidden seeds?
No.
I got some forbidden Chinese seeds.
Did you? Mm-hmm. Back when that happened? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Krista, I don't know what you're doing. You're apparently doing it wrong, because if you want to make max gains from your garden, got to have forbidden seeds.
Smuggler found with nearly 1,000 cacti and succulents strapped to her body.
They were in her pants.
So this is a woman coming, I think she was coming from China to New Zealand. And New Zealand and Australia have some pretty serious laws there because they don't want it could wreck their ecosystem very easily. They don't want anybody competing with all of those murderous spiders. That's their island. They don't want anything else coming in there. So she took all these cacti and seeds and stuff and stuffed them into her socks or stockings. And a dog. They have a dog that sniffs for forbidden seeds.
Found him.
Yeah.
It was in her pants.
Smuggling them out.
She's actually done this before. So she's definitely a woman with a plan. Turns out you could sell all of that for about 10 grand in New Zealand because it's forbidden.
Really?
Yeah.
Clearly in the wrong profession. I should be stealing seeds and smuggling them over borders.
Well, you're going to have to do a better job than she did, Krista. Where would you hide your
Kind of a
cacti?
big risk, too.
I just keep them in my mouth. Just mouth full of cactus.
This
It
headline,
hurts so bad.
this guy, what this guy said was very sexist, and there's no place for it. But I would say the way that he could have saved himself was to say the real truth, which is that everybody talks too much during meetings. Oh my God. You know what feature I want in Microsoft Teams? A daily character limit.
Tokyo Olympics heads won't resign after saying that women talk too much in meetings.
So this guy's like 87. He clearly is not part of the woke culture. And he made this comment, and he was like, if we're going to start letting women work here, these meetings are going to last forever. And then he was completely taken aback when there was backlash from that.
Well, here's his full quote. Women are very competitive. One of them raises her hand. They probably all think they have to say something too. And then everyone says something. That's not a problem that's unique to women.
Also, the culture there with the whole like salaryman stuff and like you're not allowed to leave. I mean, I think they all kind of behave like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're all just kind of getting in line. So yeah. He's apparently going to keep his job. He says he doesn't want to step down. He's 83. Some people obviously want him to, but I don't think the government is necessarily going to force him out.
Oh, I didn't mean that.
I mean, 83, right? How much longer can he really? That's crazy. Of course, we have that too. I mean,
there's a lot of old people in Japan. He might live to be 110.
That's true. He'll have like a robot just carry him into the chamber. And this is a great headline. And I saw the headline. I put the story in. But then reading the story, Jennifer Ouellette has a strong passion for bugs. And it comes through in her writing. And my God, the amount of facts that I now know about this topic.
Rare 50 million year old fossilized bug flashes its penis for posterity. Dates back 50 million years, so this group may be twice as old as previously assumed. So my big takeaway from this article is that this kind of a fossil is really rare because most of the time only the harder parts of the insects are preserved in fossils. This is the rare specimen where both the hard and soft bits were preserved.
And in fact, here's something that I didn't know. I bet many of you didn't know it either. This bug, what was the name of this bug?
Frog
Assassin?
hopper.
Oh yeah, the assassin bug. That's a cool name.
But there's a frog hopper in here too.
The assassin bug and many other insects, their penis is actually a part of their exoskeleton, which is weird. And they have this little cod piece that here he is in all of his glory. I guess this is it right here. So you got this little like protective covering, and then that only comes out during the mating process. Oh, we have look at this.
Yeah, there's labels.
So there's his little
and they got
genital piece.
They got a fossil like in process.
But that wasn't this guy. These two were the other kind you said.
Yep.
And
Yeah, the frog hopper.
they were sealed together during the act of lovemaking.
Oh, it's so precious.
Beautiful.
They get to spend eternity together forever.
You know what? Today's the 12th, right? This is a wonderful Valentine's story.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Pro tip: 2 days. Make it happen.
Yeah.
So now we understand. And they also point out that when it comes to evolution, one of the things that evolves the fastest and responds the fastest to external stimuli, it's the penis.
Okay.
That's a fact we all know now.
This was a great hoax. And this artist who perpetrated the hoax admitted that she had only done what she describes as poor photoshops And when she wrote the copy, she wrote it so that it would very slowly dawn on the reader what was real here. But as you can imagine, the modern internet, it didn't work. People believed it.
Hundreds fall for satirical advertisement for a company that will put a blue check mark on your house. Are you a public figure, someone with a large following and influencer? Have an official, verified blue check mark added to your house.
So you could sign up for this, and she was in fact flooded by as many as 3,000 applications. But you didn't just sign up; you had to put down a deposit. Was it $2,000 or $3,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
And people were willing to do so. She didn't actually have a payment processor on her site, obviously, but they attempted to hey, contact me for payment. I'm ready for my blue check. Now,
3,000. Yeah, $29.99.
what would stop you
From turning this into a business?
or from just installing your own blue check onto your house?
You're a homeowners association.
I was gonna say, this is such a small. It's just a little blue disc with a check mark. You could do this. This is a great DIY project for a weekend.
And if you read the copy, I mean, she really went out of her way to make it obvious. And when she was talking about the people who would get turned down and whatever, then it was a huge joke, but it worked.
Terrible.
Maybe this is something you should start doing, Krista. Do a little woodworking, make a blue check, and put them on people's houses.
I mean, that would be one little side thing to do. I don't think that the place I'm moving, I don't think most of those people probably know what a blue check is.
You think? I think it's more ubiquitous. What about, we talk about the homeowner association. Is this property completely unencumbered?
Yeah, there's no HO or anything out there. It's out in the middle of nowhere.
Cool.
That was the only thing we said in our listing. We told our agent, we were like, no HOA. Not about that life.
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, it doesn't, based on what we just looked at, it doesn't make any sense that there would be an HOA there.
But
it's good to know.
Yeah.
Now, we have done stories that were somewhat similar to this before because all during the pandemic, people seem to have been doing this kind of thing. But I want to point out, once again, an odd number of participants. Somebody got to serve the drinks.
Malay mail. Yeah, go ahead.
Group sex involving over 81 people raided by French police for flouting COVID-19 rules.
Oh, no.
What are you doing?
Oh.
It's okay. It's the thing 21 now.
Oh, yeah, the variants. They should rename the variants.
Yeah.
So there was this is kind of a hard one to parse. The Malay Mail might not be a English as a first language publication, but they went to this warehouse and there were 11 people outside just hanging out. And they were like, hey guys, you shouldn't be here. Why are you here? And they were like, we're just here.
We're drivers for the people inside having their eyes wide shut party.
And they were like, oh, there's something inside. And they went inside and orgy.
Excellent.
When I enter a warehouse after hours, I just expect an 81 person orgy. It's something that I'm surprised if I don't find it.
It's the kind of horror that sticks with you for years to come.
Now, here's something that we've all done, and you feel so clever when you do it, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to show this to people. When you're creating a website, you obviously don't have copy or, users or whatever. So you fill in celebrities or your favorite, author or movie characters and
stuff from
like
Star
that.
Trek.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Lord of the Rings.
And people, and sometimes it does get weird because sometimes the client will see it and they're like, I don't understand this. What's going on here?
It's like, are you stupid?
But the real nightmare is when that accidentally gets to production.
Oh, no. Texas DPS accidentally issues an Amber Alert for horror icon Chucky and Son.
Is this Chucky walking the red carpet?
Like son of Chucky.
It looks like it.
How did they manage that? Oh, it's a little person in there. That's amazing. The hands are the wrong color. But anyway, an Amber Alert for Chucky and his son.
Now, I seem to recall in Hawaii they fired somebody because there's no way that anybody would ever make that mistake of clicking the wrong box. Not for the Amber Alert, it was the missile alert, but same thing, right?
I think the missile alert is a little bit more alarming.
Yeah.
Probably an even worse UI.
Did you see, there's this image at the top is actually a slider. If you click on it, it shows you the Amber Alert with their photos.
Do you not want to not send the Amber Alert?
Son of Chucky looks much less human than Chucky.
He does.
I don't know the lore of how Chucky's son came about. Do you?
I don't have any idea.
I remember there was a Bride of Chucky movie. Did they consummate that marriage and produce a child?
I don't think he has a working reproductive system.
I don't think he has a working circulatory system either, but I mean, could
Engagement challenge. We need people who are into the lore of Chucky to comment and tell us how they reproduce.
But we actually might get some insight to that in our last story today.
Uh-huh.
Oh, look who's foreshadowing now. Oh, this is look at this web design. Oh, look at this, Krista.
Wait, what site are we on?
Oh,
The Notes from Poland?
yeah. All right. Oh.
Yeah, they didn't test all their breakpoints because support us is not supposed to be there, or the Instagram icon's not supposed to have its own row like that.
Anyway, Poland, not a big fan of abortions, but they are going to give you this concession. Don't worry.
Polish ministry proposes room to cry in for women forced to give birth hit by abortion ban. So you can't abort, but you can cry.
So the doctor might come to you and say, listen, ma'am, I have some bad news. You know that baby inside of you? Flippers. It has flippers. And she would say, oh, we should terminate this pregnancy. And he says, oh, I'm sorry. Please go to the crying room. And when you're done in the crying room, we will hand you your bundle of burden and you can take it home.
What if they have an attractive crying room and then like just a sloppy crying room?
It's ridiculous.
There is no such thing as a sloppy crying one for women. We're not allowed to be sloppy. We must be pretty at all times.
Now this one, zero details. I don't understand it. Did you get the idea that he had somehow compromised it?
So I Googled this, and that is exactly what happened.
Okay, I didn't go that far because it's the nonsense section. I'm not going to put in extra work, but I assumed that he somehow got free pizza.
Yes, that is exactly. Rotura man accused of dishonestly accessing pizza ordering website. Turns out the website, not really well put together, and he figured out how he could just get free pizza ad infinitum. And then they were like, well, wait a minute, how is this guy doing that? And then they figured out, oh, he's stealing.
It had a funny name. What's the name of the pizza place? Hell Pizza. But one of the things about it is like, okay, this guy stole a pizza. Should he really be given any kind of jail time? He did it from May 30 to August 11th. How many do you think he got?
Probably a lot.
You think he went to it every day?
Do you think this is any more or less headache than if they had just, paid a reasonable web programmer to deal with this?
I bet they will now.
I bet they haven't learned their lesson. They're just like...
But you got to give him credit. If he was perpetrating that entire time and was smart enough not to tell anybody else and just enjoy his free pizza. Because most people be like, look what I can get here. And then you ruin it overnight.
Yeah. He
went for the long game. A lot of free pizza. Is there any way this is worth it in terms of audience engagement? Because it's going to create that, right?
He probably thought so.
But is there any way you could get a return on this?
I don't think so.
No.
Logan Paul has bought $2 million worth of Pokemon cards, and this is on the BBC News, which is really the reason that we're including it. Like, I don't really care that Logan Paul bought $2 million worth of Pokemon cards, but the BBC News felt compelled to write an article about it, which is in of itself interesting.
Let me correct you. I care deeply that Logan Paul has $2 million.
That is very disappointing.
And not only does he have $2 million, he has enough money that $2 million is not a big deal to him.
Do you think that the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are sitting around in a room and they're just collecting data points and they're like, oh, we got another data point that we're that much closer to oblivion?
I think the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are furiously clicking on Newegg to try to get enough storage because their data points overflowed years ago.
We're going to need another 20 terabytes just for Logan Paul's Pokemon collection, being an indicator of the coming apocalypse.
Just cooling their server room is breaking them at this point. The budget cannot handle it. Now, when it comes to
that's famine mining Bitcoin.
Yeah. When it comes to nonsense stories, there are certain things that if I see in the headline, they immediately go in. And one of those phrases is Wu-Tang.
The Associated Press is bringing us this story. China is not convinced by Canada's Wu-Tang Clan explanation. So there was a T-shirt that replaced Wuhan with
Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang.
No.
Or Wu-Tang with Wuhan.
Yeah, right.
And they were like, that's a bat. This is not good. And so like it was a cultural embassy freak out thing, but I think that they're overreacting.
Total failure by AP News here by not showing us the T-shirt, but you can see the Wu-Tang logo in the back. It does look a little bat-like.
The reason AP didn't show us the T-shirt is they're erring on the side of maybe that is culturally offensive.
So the Canadians claim that this was the Wuhan team. They had something to do with Wuhan. Like maybe the, not an embassy, but some sort of like make friends with Wuhan team. And so some guy was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to get the Wu-Tang shirts, but it's going to be the Wuhan team because we're the Wuhan team. And the Chinese were like, that's a bat and you're a racist.
Listen, Wu-Tang not anything to fuck with.
Ain't nothing.
Ain't nothing. Sorry.
Wow.
Don't get us demonetized again.
It's like you don't even visit the 36 chambers, Krista.
I honestly don't.
When it comes to like kids that I think are going to have serious mental problems their entire life, I would put the young Musk child near the top, but not as high as this one.
U.S. toddler to release debut album recorded from inside the womb. You don't need to know anything else about this story. You don't even need to read it. The entire story is the headline.
The real authority is the picture. Like, if you had read that headline to me and you were like, envision what those parents look like.
I wouldn't have pictured these, to be honest with you.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
That kind of took me for a loop.
This seems like a publicity stunt by the parents.
Who are, wait for it, musicians. From bands I've never heard of, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I'm not hip to current music.
They're also trying to patent this technology, the biosonic MIDI technology.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now they claim that
I am the next Roland. No, I don't think so.
when they claim that when they played this for the child immediately recognized it. It's like, oh, that's me in the womb.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah.
That's a lie. It's a terrible lie.
We need Jonathan Frakes saying, that was a lie.
That was false. And finally, remember when I said that the son of Chucky could perhaps be explained by this? Maybe, I don't know, but it's becoming more and more common for people to marry dolls. I suppose this was inevitable, right?
Chinese man who got engaged to a love doll welcomes baby doll into his family. So, yeah, procreation. All right, I guess. Sounds good. It talks about how he went on a tour of the factory where these are made, and they were just like, here, I have some spare parts, and also here's a baby, and I have some spare parts for the baby too. Thank you for being a good sport.
Here's the thing, Ji Tianrong, who does live with his parents, in case you were wondering. Yes, he does.
Oh.
He claims that he has never so much as kissed his doll because he's afraid
Or violated.
He's afraid the acid in his mouth might somehow damage her sensitive skin. And yes, Krista has never violated her either. But does that not mean that this was an immaculate conception? This could be the next coming of our Lord.
In 2,000 years, someone finds a destroyed hard drive from like the Internet Archive where they're putting this together, and an entire religion. Like we will have the what was it, the Nicene Creed? We're gonna have the Nicene Creed in another 20 years when they find this story and be like, oh, it was the immaculate conception of the robots or whatever.
Do you think so? Like these pictures have him holding the baby with the fiance. Do you think like he takes this baby up to his parents? He's like, "Look, meet your grandchild." And do you think his mother just bursts into tears?
I bet both the kid and the wife sit at the dinner table. What do you think?
I bet the rest of the family is just like that quiet, seething. Like you can see a little bit of steam coming off the sides of their head, and they literally can't say anything.
They desperately try to change the topic and talk about whatever, but he keeps bringing it back as if the wife had also experienced that thing, and they're just like,
Man, I'm so glad the birth went well for my fiance.
Can you believe? She's back in shape already. It's a miracle.
Oh, so sad.
There they are, the lovely couple. She just looks confused, I think. Why do I
Let me out.
exist? Amazing. But that's the word we're moving into. I don't know. Do you think we will live, let's say, best case scenario, we've got maybe 60 years left. Will we ever see widespread acceptance of this?
Yes.
What year? Give me a year.
I think that it's going to start out as like home care robots for the elderly, and then it's just gonna like snowball from there.
Well, but see, I want the tipping point. So what date is it where you go to somebody's house and there's a doll and you're just like, oh, whatever, yeah, that's your doll. That's your wife.
Probably 2075.
We'll be dead by then.
That's a safe estimate, I suppose.
It'll start to be really popular probably around 2040, 2050, that like the AI is going to get there before the robots.
Yeah, that's a good point. She is actually a kind of a lesser model, because he pointed out that the one he wanted was 80,000 RMB. I don't know how to pronounce that. Yuan. It's Yun, right?
One. I think it's just one.
I think it's Yun.
Is it?
We have this conversation every time we come back.
Chat's gonna tell us in a minute what we're wrong.
And they always tell us that we're both wrong. But anyway, the one he wanted was 80,000. He found this one at a discount for 10,000. But I don't know. She looks pretty. Like, is that a bad doll?
The wig's not great, but I mean that can probably be switched out. Uh-oh.
If you are in we just
Oh, okay.
we're just
Every time
taking
it
it
goes
in.
quiet, I'm like,
Engagement challenge. If you are in a relationship with a doll, please answer these questions. Krista, give us your possible final goodbye as a filthy street person.
you mean renter?
Same thing.
Bye. I don't know why I'm sounding like an old person.